Welcome to Lead Where You Live, Tucson Voices in Leadership. I'm Jamie Leon-Guerrero.
And I'm Raysun. This podcast is all about real people leading with heart in our community.
We believe leadership isn't about titles, it's about action. And Tucson is full of people making a difference in big and small ways.
Join us as we chat with inspiring voices who are showing up, stepping up, and shaping Tucson's future.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to Lead Where You Live. I'm Raysun.
And I'm Jamie.
And today we have with us Caroline Lewis, a GTL Class of 2024. Caroline has lived in Tucson since August of 2020 after moving from upstate New York. Currently, she works at the Pima County Health Department as the Community Engagement Manager, ensuring that the health department works with community members and organizations in a way that is intentional, equitable, and meets community need. Day by day, she spends her time fostering relationships with community partners, training program staff on facilitation and collective impact. She also makes sure that community members are able to get their needs heard at a local government level. Before moving to Arizona, Carolina served as a Peace Corps volunteer. Oh, did I know that? I was a Peace Corps volunteer too.
Yay. Cool. I didn't know that either. Oh.
For 2 years in Western Ukraine, working in the youth development sector. She then received a master's degree in development practice from the University of Arizona in 2022. Caroline studied English and psychology at Boston College, graduating in 2018. Outside of work, she serves as an at-large council member for the First Things First Pima South region. She is a board member of the Tucson Young Professionals Board of Directors and, of course, was a GTL Class of 2024 graduating member. In her free time, she likes playing recreational kickball, reading, trying new restaurants, and hanging out with her cat, Coco, whom maybe we'll have a visit with today. Thanks for being here, Caroline.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Good to see your face again.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So we'll just get right into it. And Caroline, tell us where your name comes from.
So this is actually an interesting story. So my mom's side of my family is Ukrainian. And so my maternal grandmother came over from Ukraine when she was young, and her name was Caroline. So we thought. Her actual name is Carolina, and all of her documents, the name was switched as, she came over, and when you're going through all of the immigration documentation changes and all that stuff. So it's funny, my mom had thought that she had named me Caroline after her mom, and years later, my grandma one day was just like, that's not my real name. Like, my name is Carolina, and no one knows that, and everyone just calls me the Americanized version of my name. And then, some of her documents say Carolyn, some of them say Carolina, some of them say Caroline. You know how those things happen when you come from a different country, and the documents and the process and everything, and things get messed up. And so my grandma kind of had 3 different names, and I was named after one of those names. But it's funny because when I went to go live in Ukraine with Peace Corps, Carolina is the Ukrainian version of Caroline. And so I got to experience what the Carolina version of me would be like, because everyone over there called me Carolina. So yeah. And then my middle name is Jean, and that's my paternal grandmother's middle name. So I'm kind of named after both my grandmas.
Love that. We have that in our family too. So my dad is a Jaime. So there's an iteration of all the grandkids all the boys have James in their name, or we're even some of my cousins, his brothers and sisters loved him so much that they named their kids with the Jameses in it. And my mom's middle name is Jill. So all the girls have some iteration of Jill, Jillian, Jilliana. There's I'm Jamie Jill. So it's super cool that you have that connection.
I feel like I'm going to be one of those moms who names all her kids with the same letter. I love those families. It's going to be me.
I love it.
Tell us a little bit about where you live and what you love most about where you live.
Yeah. So I live in the Midtown area, so right on Grant in Tucson. I'm a stone's throw away from Postino, which is sometimes a dangerous thing and sometimes a great thing. But I love this area. I think it's really close to downtown, but you're not necessarily right in downtown, which is nice for me because of my work schedule. But we're close to good restaurants. There's good bars around here. The Catalina Vista neighborhood is right next to me, and that neighborhood is beautiful to walk through. What I really like about my area too is that the built environment is really great. Not to get public healthy, but there's lots of opportunities for people to recreate outside. The sidewalks are really good. Thinking about things like pedestrian and roadway safety. But I want to acknowledge too that I realize not all parts of Tucson are built that way, right? I think one thing I did want to acknowledge with this question is that different parts of Tucson have been given priority over other parts of Tucson in terms of development and where money is going and community investment, where, new restaurants are being built and that type of thing. And I think that's something that Tucson can really work on is, putting more money and investment and time and care into different areas of town that really need it. So I know I'm really lucky to live in the area of town that I live in because I know that not all areas get the amount of, I think, attention that Midtown gets. Mostly, I think, because of people who live there.
Yeah. And that's, a really accurate about, most places that you live in that there are different, pros and cons for every area that you live in. One of the things that you said about access to recreational area, I think is really interesting because, that's one of the reasons I moved to Tucson because as a city as a whole, there's more access than not. But I know in my LinkedIn community that I have a number of people who have been posting about sort of the bikeability and how even though we have this great thing, the loop, basically what you're saying that the communities that have the easy access to the loop aren't necessarily the communities or the areas that we need to have access to the loop.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's a really great perspective to bring to our conversation. So,
Yeah, one
thank
of
you.
the things that I do at the health department is I conduct our community health needs assessment, which is an assessment that we do with TMC and Banner. For them, they have to do it for the Affordable Care Act because they're nonprofit hospitals. But most times, the health department helps the hospitals with the assessment. And we spend about a year and a half collecting information from community about what health priorities are important to them. And this year, pedestrian safety was one of our top 6 priorities because Tucson is actually number 3 nationally in pedestrian deaths. And yeah, it's really bad.
Knew it was high. I did not realize it was that
It's
high.
number 3. Yeah, and that's just Tucson proper, obviously. Pima County is much larger than just Tucson. But, yeah, I think that speaks to the fact that different areas are much more pedestrian friendly, than others. And I think, Rayson, what you said about, even the loop, who has access to the loop? And is it the communities that maybe can't afford a gym membership, for example, or can't afford to go to spin class and those types of things? Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about. But one of the
Or
other
need to
things
use
that the
the loop
community
for
members
transportation. Or need to use the loop for transportation. Like we say, we're a bike-friendly city, we
absolutely.
want people to commute, and, the loop is this great interconnector, but if you can't get access to it without having to put your bike on your car to get there, then not really accessible.
Or put your bike on the bus, on the front
Or
of
the
the
bus.
bus.
Yeah. And I also wanted to comment on, like, how you were talking about, like, the businesses that are in your neighborhood that, like, some communities don't have access to, and sometimes my thought when you said that was, like, maybe that's not a city thing, that's also educating potential businesses that come here, because ultimately, right, they're saying, like, "I wanna be in this neighborhood because all of these things," but really just educating them on, like, the culture and the diversity and all these other neighborhoods that could use the uplift maybe, right? And, like, I don't know, I think maybe we can do better on that, like, as community members, as citizens, right? Like, because, like, I have one of my favorite restaurants is in South Tucson, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, I think we can do better on both ends, like, the city on their end, but also as, like, just community members and leaders just saying, like, "Yeah, build there, I'll come to that." Like, I would still go to that community or that neighborhood to go eat your delicious food or shop at your store, so
Absolutely.
it's just it's a whole issue day, right? Like,
Well, I think,
public health.
yeah. And I think especially in public health, we think a lot about how different policies and really structural inequality, just to say it, like how those things affect the layouts of communities decades and decades later, looking back to redlining. I mean, Tucson was a city that was redlined. thinking about the construction of the TCC and how the barrio there was really destroyed and people were picked up and moved, right? Like those sorts of things I think really affect how communities are built and what resources are brought to different places. But that's for another time. So
Things I learned about in the lead Tucson class, if I'm being truly honest. And I thought I was really, really connected to the community. But
there's
like you said, we'll move on because it's a whole other
real good.
conversation. We'll invite you back for that. But tell us or tell the people watching something that most people don't know about you.
Yeah. So one thing that people don't know about me, which I think probably people wouldn't guess, is really throughout my whole childhood and into my early 20s, I had a horrible speech impediment. I had a really bad stutter where it was pretty like debilitating, actually. Even speaking in public or reading out loud, it wasn't really, I guess, a stutter. It was kind of like a stammer. So any hard vowel, like the name Emma, for example, I would go to say the name and I would go, and I couldn't get it out. And it's interesting because my mom had the same thing when she was young, up until she was about 26 or so. And so all throughout my 20s, I was like waiting for my 26th birthday. I was like, the stutter's going to go away. It's going to go away. And it's funny enough because around that year is when it actually went away. And so I value the ability to communicate so much, I think, because for so long it was a real struggle for me. And things like public speaking or reading out loud in class, or, if I had a friend whose name was Emma, I was like, here we go. And so it also, though, really taught me how to be creative. And I think it made me a much better communicator because I'm
Yeah.
able to talk around things without saying something. I can kind of be creative with how I think and how I describe things. And I think that actually impacted my ability to learn a language when I was in Peace Corps, right? Because I'm used to kind of having to think on my feet. And if I can't say a certain word, I can describe it in a different way. So overall, I think I'm really grateful for that experience that I had, even though in the moment it was really crappy, and definitely, caused some social anxiety and that kind of stuff. I think it really influenced the way that I communicate and how I interact with people and with the world. So,
I can totally connect to you with that. I actually had long COVID induced traumatic brain injury, and I had a very exactly what you're describing, where I would know what the word is, and it was like I could get the very first part of the syllable and no farther. It was like just stuck. And I had to go to speech therapy, and everything that you're talking about is what they taught me, how to be creative around it, how to do different techniques and tools to not get stressed out, because it is very frustrating when you know what you're supposed to be doing and things don't happen the way you expect for it to. And so having to learn those tools basically really does expand your ability to come up with creative solutions and to find confidence in even when you're in kind of a stressful situation or you're frustrated. So I really admire that the length of the time that you had to handle and overcome that. So thanks for being on here today and sharing that. So it's really nice to be able to hear someone talk about something that it can be very, you want to keep secretive or not have to mention because it's very frustrating or embarrassing in the moment. So I appreciate you telling us that.
and I think too, gave me a lot of empathy for people who have different ways of communicating or may struggle to communicate certain things, whether you're coming to the States and English isn't your first language, for example, or whether you have a speech impediment or a disability or whatever. I think it made me more empathetic to like those situations, and then just more empathetic in general of like, you don't know what's going on in someone's head. And so give people a little bit of grace if maybe they're not the quickest when you're driving behind them, or they're taking a little bit to get something out or explain something. I think it helped me be more empathetic in general. And I'm really grateful for that too.
And that leads perfectly into our next question, which is, how does leadership show up for you in your personal, professional, and within the Tucson community?
Yeah. So I think I'll talk about my professional life first. I think the leadership style that I have, which all of my leadership Gallup strengths are in the blue connecting with people section. And so, one of the things that I really try to do professionally, I manage a team of three. Right now, it's two, but soon to be three. Um, and I really try to support my team to be their best. I'm definitely a type of manager who is more of a coacher than a prescriptive type of boss. And I think that's for a few reasons. I think it's because of the skills I learned in GTL, to be totally honest with you, of knowing that, okay, I'm a developer, right? I want people to be their best and I want to help coach and mentor and provide support where I can and give my team the chance to be creative. I think the other reason that I'm like that, just to be blunt, is I'm young. I'm only 29, and a lot of my staff are a lot older than me, like 20 plus years older. And so going into my job at first, that was really uncomfortable because, managing someone who could be your grandma's age is a little bit strange. So it can be a little awkward. And so I think, you know, really making sure that my team knows that I'm here to coach and provide support and encourage them to be creative. I really see that as leadership. And it's the leadership space that I feel the most comfortable in. I think in Tucson, how I really use my leadership skills is taking causes that I care about and really advocating for those, and being involved in those communities. So, for example, like Raysun, I had speech therapy when I was young because of my stutter, and it was government funded. So that's one of the big reasons why early childhood education and supporting families with young children is so important to me, because my family got that support. And it really made, I think, a huge difference in my life. So that's why I sit on the council for First Things First, for example. The work I did in Ukraine is a cause that's really important to me. Obviously, now with everything going on, Ukraine is on top of mind for a lot of folks. And so, using my personal experiences from when I lived over there, I'm able to help advocate and really share stories from people who live there and sharing my experience and with folks in Tucson who may not know a lot about Ukraine or who haven't been there. And then personally, I think how I lead in my personal life is just knowing my core values and what I stand for and being with people and doing things that align with those core values. If people are in my life who don't align with those core values, I'm not interested. Not to be that way, but I'm just not. And I think experience is the same. There's so many opportunities here in Tucson to do all the things. And I try to pick things and pick people to spend time with who align with the values that are important to me. And I think, GTL really helped me figure those things out.
That's awesome.
So I heard you say, I lost count, but I heard you say creative or creatively multiple times. So I'm curious if in your personal life you have a creative streak. Do you do art? Is there something, or does it just show up, not just in a just, or does it show up, just in your solutions and the things that you do, but in your personal life, or like, hey, what we think of as traditional creative handcrafts or whatever. How does it show up?
Rayson, the interesting answer is no. I'm so not creative. The only creative thing I've really ever done, especially like visual art, are actually these paintings right behind me. These
I was
two,
gonna ask you
which
if you painted those.
so I did not paint these. My best friend from high school painted these. I painted these. And by
Mhm.
paint, I laid paint on a canvas straight. And I used a blow dryer and I blew the blow dryer and the paint spread out. So if you want to call that visual art, fine.
I love it. That is actually something that I have wanted to try and haven't done yet, is the blow drying painting. So
It was pretty
awesome.
cool. But besides that, I danced for like 18 years. So dance was a really big creative outlet for me. It's actually something I've really wanted to get back into here in Tucson. I've done some like country dance, two stepping type stuff, but I really liked ballet and lyrical and that sort of stuff. And so that's one thing I've really actually been looking to do, is find a place to do that here in Tucson.
And I'm blanking on the name in my head, but there is a specifically for adults. It's a dance studio, but you sign up kind of like the way you do gym classes and
Is it
stuff.
called Breakout Studio, Rayson? Is that it?
I think so. Yes, 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 yes.
I
I think
haven't
it
been, but
is.
I've heard it's great.
Yeah, yeah. I went for a ballet class right before I had the COVID stuff happen, and so I couldn't continue, but I went because I also was a dancer all through
Yay.
high school, ballet, point, and it's one of the things that I used to recover from occupational asthma and the Peace Corps. That's a long story, but it's a really awesome environment. There are people of all adult ages. They're very supportive and they're very, low key. It's not like the pressure environment of when you're in a dance trying to reach the next level kind of thing
Yeah,
as well. So, yeah, definitely try it out.
it's very cool.
Love to dance too. I've been dancing since I was 2.
Love it.
And Jamie does it naturally. I do it like instructions in a class, right? Like, I'll do
Yeah.
my
You
whatever.
guys are like the ballet and stuff. I did like Polynesian hula dance since I was 2. So, I just love dancing. So, wherever we're dancing, I'm in.
And we can see, okay, that's it. We have to do a TikTok. We're gonna have to do a TikTok dancing video because Jamie does those all the time.
Yeah.
So awesome and so fun and so creative.
Love it. It's
Yeah.
interesting to see how your creative outlets change as you age. I just think it's so
Yeah.
interesting, and I'm so excited to see what my creative outlets will be in, like, 10, 15 years. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. It'll be pretty cool. It's pretty watch it's neat to go through them as well, right? Like as you know, as like I feel like you're younger than my daughter. So I could it's gonna be great.
Love it.
I know. But you've mentioned GTL a couple of times in your answers,
Yeah.
and I really want to know like what was your biggest takeaway from GTL and like how has it impacted you since you graduated?
Yeah. So I think throughout my life, I've definitely been the type of person who focuses on the things they don't do well and tries to do them better. I think it's the
Mm,
perfectionist in me. I don't know. I think a lot of things come pretty easy to me. So when something does it, I'm like, come on, you know? And I
uh-huh.
think GTL really helped me realize, like, you don't have to be good at everything, and you probably shouldn't be, because if you're good at everything, then, like, what's the room for everyone else to do? Like, it's good to have people with different strengths. And so I think I've always been wanting to be like the jack of all trades and able to do it all. But GTL really encouraged me to focus on how I can show up in my community, whatever that community is, to make the most impact. And how I can make the most impact is most times staying in the lane of the things that I'm really good at and working on those things. Not saying you can't try new things too, of course you can. But if you're looking to make an impact, whether it be in a community group or at work or with friends or in a relationship, even, sticking to the things that you're good at and really knowing what those things are and how to capitalize on them is something that I really learned from GTL, and that I definitely apply in a lot of different aspects of my life. So, yeah.
I love that. I on my first day of the retreat, right, when we did our strengths reviews in the group that I was in, I had Vera from Southwest Solutions in this, and we're kind of going over it, and we're looking at our top 5 strengths, and I remember having this like aha moment of almost like what you were saying. Like I originally looked at because I bought the whole list, so I'm looking at it, and I was thinking, man, like this thing is like on the bottom, but I should be like, I suck at that. And really changing the mindset through the process of going like, no, these are all strengths. I'm just really good at these top 5 and 10. And like, we kind of joked a little bit during that first day of the retreat, going like, do you know how much money in therapy I spent trying to like get through to the like be better at these lower strengths? Like, I could have saved myself so much money and so much therapy time. But then also really leaning into my number one strength is restorative, which is like the problem solver, right? And I felt like it was showing up in my life as like a basement and thinking like, no, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at like solution solving and like fixing things. And I'm not going to like let anybody tell me that like it's a bad thing anymore. I that was like one of the biggest takeaways too for me was just realizing that like no, I'm really good at these and let me focus on these top 5 and like when I need to, I've noticed they come up. Like I can draw on those strengths when needed, but like just focusing on those top 5s has really helped me, has impacted me and just also stepping into them like, no, these are strengths. And no, you can't tell me that they're not. And recognizing when I'm in my basement, right? Like, okay, maybe I'm in my basement right now, but it's still a strength and just changing the mindset. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that because that was something that I took away as well.
Yeah.
I also think like tying into what you're talking about we say so much in leadership, and a lot of times, especially when we're talking about how to get involved with the community and stuff, we talk about, well, do what you're passionate about, do what you're passionate about. And I think that what I see a lot happening is when we focus on our strengths, those are things that tend to because we're so good at them, they give us joy. We like doing them. We like using them. And therefore, that is also where our passions lie. Like when you combine, right, like some of your other interests with the passion, the joy, the energy you get from utilizing your strengths, that's where we often show up as leaders and can be the most powerful.
Agree.
We've had such a How do you give back to the Tucson community?
Yeah. So, like was mentioned in my bio that you read, Raysun, I serve on two different boards in town. So one of which is the First Things First, Regional Council for Pima South. And so for those of you who don't know, First Things First is the statewide early childhood agency. And it's broken up into different regional areas in the state. And so Pima South covers the south part of Pima County, especially our more rural areas like Sahuarita, Green Valley, and Ajo. And so a lot of the work that we do through that council is looking to allocate funding for programming in areas where there's not a lot of opportunity for young families, families with young children to get support. And really the mission of First Things First is to ensure that every child has the resources that they need to thrive and to be their best. So that's really important to me and close to my heart for sure. And then the other board service that I'm lucky to be part of here in Tucson is the Tucson Young Professionals Board of Directors. And so I've been on that board for a year. I've been involved with TYP since I first moved to Tucson. And for those of you who don't know, Tucson Young Professionals is the largest young professionals networking organization in the state. We provide lots of different resources and supports for young professionals, whether it be in terms of your traditional networking. We do a lot of advocacy work in terms of civic engagement. We do a lot of professional development. And we really help connect young professionals to leaders in the community, really to work on retaining our young workforce here in town. Lots of folks tend to move away from Tucson when they're early in their careers because there's not a ton of opportunity. And while I think that you can say that about any place. We really try to encourage folks to stay around and give them that community. So that's also really important to me. And then I think, in general with TYP and with First Things First and with my job at the health department, how I really give back is helping connect people to the opportunities or the services that they need to be their best. So that be helping connect young professionals to professional development opportunities, whether that be through my work with First Things First, helping connect families with young children to resources, or whether that be just in life and with my friends, making sure that my friends, know what's out there and are able to get connected to opportunities that may be really cool for them. I really see myself as a connector, whether that be on like a systems level or on an individual basis too. So, yeah,
Connectors unite.
love it.
I know. Well, that's like the main questions that we have for you. And we're going to
Woo!
move on to what we kind of recreating a little piece of like our retreat where we do like those boundary breakers. So we'll answer first and then we'll also answer with you.
Fun.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's a belief you hold now that you once strongly disagreed with and what changed your mind?
What? Okay, so this is probably a little personal, but I feel like it's a safe space, so it's okay. One of the things I've really been working on over the last year is setting boundaries. So if I'm with somebody, whether it be a friend or a family member or at work or a relationship, whatever, and they're doing something that hurts my feelings or that I'm not okay with, I think my whole life I've been very much of the opinion that you have to be strong and stick through. And, people are all going through their own stuff, which, yes, but you can also say, hey, this upsets me and I want to tell you about that. And if the behavior doesn't change, maybe they're not someone that needs to be in your life at that time. And so I think I really shifted my perspective on boundary setting over the last year of you're not stronger of a person if you don't set boundaries and let people dictate how they treat you and you just sit and take it. Really what true strength is being able to set a boundary and communicating that in a way that's kind and direct and not putting up with people's crap just because it makes you stronger. No, it doesn't. I don't want to live my whole life like that. And so I think that's really something I've learned over like the past year and shifting that perspective that sometimes not everyone is a good person for you at the current time and that's okay. And setting boundaries is really a strength and it's hard and sometimes it's awkward, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Boundary setting is definitely, I feel like, a lifelong skill, and it's something I've also been working on in the past year, setting a boundary with
Love it.
actually with myself, right? Like, it's really hard when you are a solo entrepreneur, when you're not going to a job where you have defined hours, right? To set boundaries, and so learning how to set boundaries for myself around work versus personal life, and the intersection of those is something that I've really been working on. And so I can really appreciate the boundary struggle with other people. Just in general, I feel like that is something that what we think are acceptable boundaries changes over time. And yeah, it's definitely a really good one. Um, do you know what you're gonna say, Jamie?
I do. Do you?
Okay, you go. No, you go first.
Actually, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Caroline said. It's just so funny. I'm hearing us say like over the last year. But if you're going to get vulnerable, I'll get vulnerable. And yeah, I was raised in a family, in a household, kind of in a culture where like your family is your family no matter what. So like that was just this belief, almost like truly sometimes detrimental to me. It was just like I was treated poorly by some people who I thought loved and cared for me. Immediate family. We'll just go with that. There's other people, immediate family who just were like horrible. And having that mindset because I was taught and that you have to love them no matter what, and you love them and you forgive them and all that jazz. And just recently, like truly had to live it the last year with like someone I had to like go non-contact with that boundary and not realizing that that was a boundary and it felt horrible to do. And again, it's a year this month and I still struggle. Like, my gosh, this person's no longer in my life. And I can apply that now though. I'm glad you're learning this now or you're practicing it now because man, I'm almost 50 and really having to live it. Like walk the walk now is hard, but again, it is a boundary. So I am a late in life boundary learner. And if I'm being honest, it's hard and it hurts a little bit, but this has probably been the most peaceful year and a half I've ever had. I have the moments where there's like the grief and loss, right? But oh man, I'm so peaceful. And I'm like so proud of myself that like boundaries are fun and they're good for the most part. They're hard, but like they're so worth it. And just, yeah. So my answer is the same as yours, boundaries and just doing the thing. And it's hard. You'll be better for it. And there's so much peace that comes with it.
And based on where we are with time, I'm going to keep it easy as well. And specifically note that I used to believe that in order to be successful as a real estate agent, that I had to be on call all the time, 7 a.m. to, 9 p.m. at night, whatever the hours were, and that I couldn't set boundaries with the people that I was working with. And so that is definitely something that I have changed my mind about, and that I deserve to be able to hold boundaries for myself and my business. And I am better and I serve my clients better as a result. Okay, so we're at our rapid fire part of the program, and we're
Just
going to
quick
back
top of mind answers, Caroline.
Okay.
Ready? Sonoran hot dogs or tacos?
Tacos.
What's something that you're looking forward to?
Week of the Young Child is next week, and I'm really excited for that.
Risk taker or cautious?
Risk taker.
What the smell that evokes a strong memory for you?
Rose smells.
Tile or carpet?
Tile.
What's a personal goal that you're working towards?
Setting boundaries more.
Going to concerts or staying home?
Concerts.
What's a cause you feel strongly about?
Ukraine right now.
Mexican food or Italian food?
Mexican food.
All right, we're at the end.
Cool.
This is your moment where you can share really quickly any special projects or events that are happening or an organization you'd like to promote.
So one of the things that I will say super quickly is, like I said, one of my roles with the health department is working on our community health needs assessment. This is an assessment that really holds true for 3 years. So it was just published in January of this year. I'll send you guys a link so you can share out the report. 265
Absolutely.
pages of really good data. We did focus groups in the community. We did interviews. We had a 4,000 response survey. There's a ton of really good information there about what the community cares about in terms of health outcomes. And I definitely encourage people to go ahead and take a look through it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Caroline. It has been an absolute pleasure having you
Thanks.
on here and having this conversation on Lead Where You Live.
This was so fun. Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Lead Where You Live. We hope you're feeling inspired by our guest's story and the impact they're making right here in Tucson.
If you love this conversation, help us spread the word, share this episode, subscribe on YouTube, and tag a local leader who should be featured next.
Because leadership starts with showing up, and we know Tucson is full of incredible people doing just that.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Lead Where You Live.